Welcome back to another episode of Tyranny. In this episode, let's talk to Lantry, because we didn't talk to him before. So this will probably take 30 minutes to talk to this guy, given all the other companions have lots of dialogue. So that'll probably be most of this episode. Anyway, let's get started. Lantry stops his stride, darting his hands about his bandolier and belt as he softly mouths off a metal inventory of inks and quills. When at last assured his possessions are in place, he looks up at you with a smile. What might I do for you? If you're going to be traveling with me, I need to know more about you. An understandable request. Let's see. Born in Sunder, no kids. What few longings of fatherly love I've got in my heart are satisfied by taking care of carrier birds. Learned my sigils and spells about 30 years back, and being able to defend myself has opened up a life of field study, and haven't grown tired of the wandering just yet. I've written on all manners of subjects, magic, birds, language, geometry, but my main focus has been chronicling. I find there's no finer pursuit than recording the events of our times. There will always be legends of what happened. Someone ought to be making note of the real thing. Aside from that, I don't know. I practice centering stance, draw portraits, and make my own inks. And I have a sharp aversion to an autobiography. I'm about as boring as watching coral grow. How'd you wind up here in Vindrian's Well? When the Valellum Citadel was set aflame by Kairos' edict, I fled as fast on my knees as would carry me. Every direction seemed like a bad idea, but heading to Vindrian's Well seemed like the least suicidal option. Mind you, I was labeling under the misconception that the Vindrian Guard had surrendered and the fighting in the valley had stopped. Looking first at his arm and then his right, he reads through the assorted notes inked across his skin. Ah, yes. 7th of sparring. That's when I crossed the mountains. That would be 2 days? 3 days after Vindrian's Guard jettisoned their surrender and claimed the citadel in the valley. The Vindrian Guard nabbed me and several other sages moving through the valley. The other sages were sympathetic to the Vindrian Guard. As for me, I just agreed not to get everyone killed. I think defying the Overlord is a really slow and stupid form of suicide. Tell me about your works with the other Oathbreakers. The Vindrian Guard has several nobleborn in their ranks, and they know their letters. The problem is they've come from noble houses scattered across the realms, each with their own private script. That's where the sages and I come in. Between us, we're familiar enough with all the regional scripts to translate and coordinate. But translating is child's play, so I might have helped out a bit more. The old citadel at the center of the valley is a crumbling affair, and there's no time for proper construction. Seems a crime not to put my magic to work. So you provided military aid to the Oathbreakers? When the servant of Archon of Justice asked me that question, I can't help but assume it's an antecedent to some sort of punishment. I can't deny I assisted the Oathbreakers, but the alternative was to starve in a cell, maybe lose my head. I realize it's an offense to the Overlord, but it's not like I increased their odds of winning in any significant way. Intent matters, what you were doing, what you need to survive, or personal survivor does not exempt one from observing the laws of Kairos. So you're an expert at fortifications. I'll just gain loyal to this guy first. Well, I trust my future actions will show I mean of service, not a source of problems. What did you learn of their plans in your time there? It won't surprise you to know their strategy is largely non-existent. They cling to the hope that their example will inspire others in tears to come to the valley and join their cause. The recent inaction between the Archons has emboldened them. Some think the Archons fear the Vindrian Guard. I'm sure they have it quite wrong. What else can you tell me about the Oathbreakers and their forces? The Vindrian Guard surrendered back in 429, and while a lot of them were conscripted in the chorus, 3 of their leaders, Captain Ari, Mantini, and Floran never turned themselves in. Instead, they hid in the valley, gathering up what resources they could until they could challenge the local garrison. At highest count earlier in the year, they numbered over 400, their ranks swollen by the soldiers of Haven and Azure that survived the war. They are a dying breed, these Oathbreakers. Most in tears have finally come to realize that Kairos has already won. And before you ask, a connoisseur of the inevitable, I have made my peace with the Overlord and bow to his might. How did you wind up a prisoner of the chorus? I had to send some missives, and that meant getting to a clearing where my terns and doves might find me. The patrol with me was ambushed by the Scarlet Chorus. I tried to flee the scene, but some youngster tackled me well. Out of one fire and into, it's been a running theme this year. Let me ask you about something else. Tell me about your magic. Oh, I don't like to brag about such things. I'm not asking you to brag, just asking tell me what you can do. My major area of focus has been pervasion, preservation, concealment, and healing, arts that have served me well in this newfound life as a peripatetic prey animal. The sages study all kinds of magic, but as a chronicler, I wanted magic that would help me see more, archive more, protect objects of historical value. Seeing as I flee like an old relic in need of some protection, my skills suit me well. Can you teach me anything? Sure, I can show you how to blend your own inks, train birds to think they're your mom, how to turn a goat into parchment, but I'm sure you prefer to learn some magic. The school of quill and ink still mattered. I may be more tight-lipped, but if you're going to travel together, we should know how to mend wounds, especially if I'm killed. I know this edict still looms, but if you have a few hours, I could show you the basics of healing magic, or at least how I learned it. I would be honored to learn a little of what you know, gain my loyalty. Rummaging through his sacks, the sage produces a long quill and crumpled piece of parchment. With 7 quick strokes of the quill, he inks a pattern on the page. Okay, we'll start with the principles. When mending wound, easing pain, we invoke the magic of the orphan midwife, Archon of Rebirth. By invoking her sigil, we channel her mastery, however briefly, through our hands. Now trace the sigil, following the lines in order I sketch them. What can you tell me about this Archon of Rebirth? Didn't realize you care about your history. Well, the orphan midwife was born in 160, bowed to Kairos in 201. They say where she walked, plants would sprout, the sick would grow vigorous. She'd also send most folks to fits of rage and animals into heat. Sounds like quite a riot. You know her magic, by the way, was one of her first... We know her magic by way of one of her first disciples, who migrated to the Tiers in 222 to spread her wisdom and act that happened to be illegal under Kairos' law. For that and a host of other transgressions, the orphan midwife has been imprisoned for over a century, or so the story goes. Follows instructions. Since this isn't your first cantrip, I'll move a little quickly, but I think you can keep up. Lantry walks you through countless repetitions of signing the mystic sigil. For hours, you wave your hand in the air to no effect, until at last you sign the pattern in the air and feel a rush of power through your veins. And we gain 5 control life ranks. And so if you need to heal pain as opposed to purge or inflict, you move your hand like so. But you know that's enough for now. I think the rest you can figure out on your own. Tell me about the sages. For hundreds of years, the sages have been devoted to the collection and preservation of knowledge. We are scholars, bookmakers, archivists, and students of mystic and the mundane alike. The wisest of our guild, not that I truly belong in that category, are versed in the sigils and spellcraft. Or at least that's how it used to be. With the destruction of the Vendrium sigil, The sages have been scattered to the winds. There are once more sages than I could name. Many have died or been taken prisoner by Kairos' forces. What do you know of the Vindrium Citadel? Lantry scowls. Writing his hand becomes unusually still. I once felt a rush of pride at that name. Now it's a blight on our reputation. Clears his throat, reasserting smile. The Venellum Citadel was once a beautiful sanctuary of parchment and ink, way to amass knowledge in the Northern Empire to the coast of Tears. It would take scores of lifetimes to learn all the Citadel could teach you. But the sages in charge of the Venellum Citadel thought themselves above Kairos' rules. The Overlord learned the sages were copying and spreading lies and forbidden knowledge. Kairos put an end to the life at the Citadel with his Edict of Fire. Lantry stops, putting a hand to his face. All that knowledge set aflame. When we bind books, we bind them to the last. Our most important tombs were warded against fire and other maladies. So many of the books remain intact as the shelf and floor melt away. I suppose it's still there if you want to brave the danger and certain death for it. It's a good reason they call it the Burning Library now. Previously known as the Venellum Citadel, the archive and ancestral home of the sages is now a site of a volcanic crater. Eruptions of lava began during the conquest of Tears. After Kairos' forces failed to claim the library in the Overlord's name, Kairos cast an Edict of Fire to break the siege and rid the world of forbidden knowledge stored there. The Citadel has been the smoldering ruin ever since. Who leads the school? I keep learning more names of those who died in the Edict of Fire, so my information could be obsolete. But with Sage Krevignac incinerated, Sage Ratinia could be the current provost. If she dies, well, fuck. Thanks to the recent deaths, maybe I'll be next in line. Let's archive that away under things to worry about later. In truth, there isn't much guild left to lead. Our library fortress is in ashes, our membership in disarray, and it doesn't help we have something of a spotty reputation here in the Tears. Fear of magic being something of a local specialty. What's your role in the guild? I'm one of the chief writers of the Chronicle. It's our attempt to record the truth of all things in their proper sequence. It's an ongoing life work of generations of sages, and I have the honor of witnessing history, and having my vantage point be a matter of record. Indeed, I have a fine appetite for discussing myself, and I'm more than satiated. Let's press onward. Hey, that only took 13 minutes instead of 30. Kind of crazy. I guess I gave up writing on this guy. So we should talk to other people about him.
You have something which requires my attention? What can I do for you?
What do you think of Lantry? I do not know how many years he has walked the face of Tetrius, but he clearly knows more than he claims to. Since he claims to know a great deal indeed, there's no limit to what he could be holding back.
At your service, Fatebind. What do you need? What did you have in mind?
I've been meaning to ask you about him. Lantry is talkative, reads when he isn't writing, and brings as much to the battlefield as a sick bird. The warriors at your side shouldn't suffer from Elder's ache in their sword arm. You'd be better served by putting him out of your misery. We need him, that's all you need to know. Understood, you've got something in mind you're using him to accomplish. Then by all means, let him tag along, but don't expect me to keep him alive. If he's pulling his weight somehow, feel free to clue me in, because I'm not seeing it. It's weird it doesn't seem like you can ask him about the other companions. Yeah, just didn't code that in. Oh well. There's still some loot spots we need to look at. So there's a crate here. blood moss and some chaw. Buffs.
No can
Let's see,
do.
there's a crate here. Broken sword. Forge bound iron. You found a broken crate with a busted, disfavored weapon inside. This must have been part of the shipment. There must be more clues nearby. Huh. Shh. I don't see any clues. Let's see. Something right around here. Better equip. There's a bag right here. -1 armor.
Won't happen. Won't happen.
It's weird there's a star right here, because like I'm right on top of the star.
Won't happen.
And it's like not valid terrain. There's also a star like right here. Seems like they got some bugs in their map icons over here. A loot icon over here somewhere.
You didn't see nothing.
Let's see, we should give some to this guy, I think. Water. Ooh, camp supplies, nice. Well, I don't need them right now. I don't need to sleep, so there's no point in wasting them. Guess I'll just leave them there.
Won't happen.
Is there still some more stuff over here? Still an icon.
Quiet down.
Oh, there's a barrel. There's some water. All right. Looks like we explored this part. I think we'll call it an episode because we spent most of the time talking to that guy. And then next episode, we'll continue on our journey. Thanks for watching.